Hey guys, welcome to another episode of All Bass Curations, Effects, Tutorials, Demos, and Review. So let's go and get this out of the way. I appreciate all y'all chiming in. Appreciate the super chat, Neo. Definitely appreciate you a lot. Appreciate you, Laurie, stopping by as usual. One of my subscribers been with me for years now, about 6, 7 years now. I definitely appreciate the love. Feel free to ask questions and all that stuff in the chat. As well as just so you know, if you want to support the channel more, you can do that through the Patreon, all that good stuff, and get my presets for different stuff there as well. But so let's get to it. All right, so I was kind of demonstrating how I'm now converting my board to Midi. So this main big board here, let me switch to the pedal board view, make that easier for you guys to see. And so let me just make sure I got everything connected up, looking decent. So sometimes I don't like how it looks. Big board. There we go. All right. So what we have here is pretty much the central of the board now is going to be this do re Midi, which is a switcher here. These are, of course, when we see these off-brand stuff, and let me see what we got here. Yeah, I'm probably going to get one of those M1 controllers as well. The screen ones. Yep, I'm going to get a screen one to go with this setup here. But this looper here, this Do Re Midi MS-8 is pretty much this pedal here. Just this is a passive version of an effects looper. You can get these on Amazon for about $40. They work great. As you can see, I still have one on the board here. But the main effects loop switcher is going to be is this now. So, and I've been trying it out for a few days. Then you can get skeptical about it because I'll tell you now, they sell them on Alibaba and stuff like that. Like, they don't even have them on Amazon. But I got this directly from their website, and it actually got here relatively fast. I mean, I'm talking about 4 or 5 days. It was here. And that's including the weekend. So that's not too bad. You get anxiety sometimes waiting for new effects and things to come in the door. But luckily, didn't take too long with the shipping. Got here well packaged. Only thing was all these little screws. These are plastic. So instead of having, for instance, these metal nuts like this one had, you see how all this is metal here? Only the inside part is the gold part on these, and this part around it, the nut itself that holds it in there is plastic. Now, let's be real. This is $130 effects looper with 8 different channels and fully MIDI capable. It's got MIDI in, out, USB host, which means it can power a device. So things like my MIDI captain, I can actually power off of that and have MIDI all with one cable. You know what I'm saying? And I also have a USB device that connects it to the computer and things like that. So it's got that, and it has input and output built-in buffers you can turn on and off. You can fully assign each effects loop to different MIDI messages like CC or PC, and you can change the numbers as well. So it's got a lot of flexibility for it to be $139. And mind you, like I said, these are $40 a piece, and these are 6. So I would need 3 each, 3 effects loops. So if I was going to get this amount of effects loops and one extra one, I would need 3 of these. The yellow, this is an effects. So, excuse me. It'd be about $120 to get 3 of these to cover what that does, and you still wouldn't have MIDI. right? These are passive, you know, but these are the T-Tone passive effects looper. I'll give you guys a I'll go on my Amazon real quick because I am an Amazon affiliate. Hey, you know what I'm saying? So I'll pull up the exact link to it real quick. This little passive looper. Again, these Do Re Mi, this MS-8 looper here, this one, they don't have that on Amazon, so I just got it directly from the site. I didn't go through Alibaba or nothing like that, but that is typically where you'll find them. So let's go copy, and there's a link to the T-Tone 3-way effects loop right there. So if you need something like that, you can check that out. And great, like I said, been great. I've had these for years. I have one on this board on the floor as well. Have one, still gonna be using one for when I need extra loops. But I needed something I can switch with Midi. You know, got tired of trying to tap dance my way through gigs, you know? You get tired of trying to hit all those pedals, and it gets very cumbersome, to be honest with you. Like, for instance, certain things like my analog section down here on the floor of preamps, this probably is just going to be for studio and for creating more ToneX tone print packs and things like that. Like, I have 11 packs available for that already for the ToneX 1, so you can check those out on the Patreon. But it allows me to pretty much, this little pedal here replaces the majority, well, all of those preamps that you see down there on the floor. So that saves me a little space there, and some tap dancing as well. So, but having this be able to switch, so just so you're clear with the signal path of the Midi, is pretty much this H2 Midi Pro. It's by CME. That's the brains of it all. And what that does is it allows me to split the MIDI coming into the MIDI controller. It pretty much is the brains of everything. It splits and allows me to interact with all the pedals at once, right? So it allows me up to 8 different USB MIDI pedals, and got a MIDI out, MIDI in, and you still have a USB-C MIDI port you can use for different things as well. So this little box there is very useful in creating more, more outlets for your MIDI. Those run about $50. These about $139, and I also use a MIDI captain. So the MIDI captain controls the CME, goes into the, sends out to the CME H2 MIDI Pro, sends out the signal to all the MIDI pedals, which includes the 256 vocoder, the C4 synth, MS-60B plus, the Hog-2, the MS-70 CDR plus, the HX1, and yeah, and that's it. And of course the effects looper. So it controls all of that stuff from right here, and I can control up to 12 different things at once with one press and release of a button, which is amazing. So basically right now I got page 15 set up where I can bring in different pedals. So if I want to use my Poly Blue, I can easily just come here, press that, and hold up, give me 1 second. So now I got instant access to that. Instant access to that without ever touching the board, Now I can just switch on my OC5. Also, if I want to bypass everything, I can as well. So With a press of a button, that makes it world a lot easier. It's the OC5. So just being able to incorporate all of that at once is, I mean, for me, is invaluable. I can just, now from one central pedal, I can control the majority, if not, I mean, pretty much, yeah, the majority. I mean, I say 90% of my board I can control from this MIDI controller now. So, all right. So I don't know if I finished explaining stuff, but this MIDI effects switcher here. Let's go back to that real quick. So loop 1 is the Poly Blue octave. Loop 2 is the OC5. Oh, these go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. So let's do that. A is the Poly Blue octave. B is the OC5. C is actually the C4 synth, the Hog-2, and the MS-60B plus. And that loop always stays on. You know, loop D is the deep freeze by itself. So I could get So I can just instantly choose to cut it off whenever. I don't even have to touch it. And only thing is, when I turn on the board, the deep freeze isn't already on, so I have to click it. But as you can see, everything I really need to click per se is right here. This is the majority of things I would need to click right here, except for the Rabbit sitar over there. But for the most part, yeah, let's keep going. So Poly Blue, A, Poly Blue, B, OC5, C is C4 synth, Hog-2, MS-60B plus, D is deep freeze, E is the male 9, F is the key 9, G is the Rabbit sitar and the V256 vocoder, while H is the MS-50G plus. I mean, no, MS-50G. I don't have the plus. I don't have the new one. So all these things are, let me see what we got here. Got a few questions. Yeah, the Future Impact, yeah, I might have to check that joint out. That seems like an amazing pedal. And no, I do not have a Boss RC5 looper. I use the Digitech ones. As you can see, I have these Digitech. I have the newer one, the Jamman Solo HD. I'm going to do a review on that one. And I have the Jamman Solo XT and Jamman Express XT. And I have them synced up through the Jam Sync. So, yeah, that covers the looper there. But yeah, appreciate go ahead, feel free to chime in with the questions and everything like that. I definitely appreciate all the love. Super chats, all that stuff are welcome. So, but let's get it popping. So yeah, pretty much all these correspond to buttons here on the MIDI captain. I have it set up for CC messages 0 through 7. So pretty much if I want to bring in an effects loop, that's just the MS-50G. So I don't have to touch that looper, at all. Now, I will say I had to do quite a bit of soldering, to these plugs here. I had to change all these top ones to these short barrel plugs. And the bottom ones are the original ones I would use with the other loopers as well. So the tricky part was just keeping in mind how all this stuff flows. Like, luckily with MIDI, you don't have to do it in a specific order. You just have to have things be in, I guess, on different MIDI channels. So, for instance, the Hog-2, that's on MIDI channel 1. HX1, that's on MIDI channel 2. The C4 synth is on MIDI channel 3. The MS-70 CDR Plus is on channel 4. The MS-60B Plus is on channel 5. I also have the V256 on channel 16 and the Atlas compressor on channel 6. So when you have all these different pedals together like this, the hard part is when you don't have it on MIDI is you got to tap dance to get to everything. Like you literally have to press. If I have for 3 of these, right, I gotta press that to get one loop, press that to get a loop, press that to get a loop. When you have it on MIDI, I can literally just press, theoretically, if this was MIDI, I could just press one button and it can do all of that at once. So it does take a lot more to set up on the front end, but it ultimately is worth it. And as you can see, like, I can do things like have the actual controller away from the pedal board. So say I wanted the pedal board to be on a keyboard stand like it is when I'm gigging. I can keep it up there and have this on the MIDI captain on the floor, use that to easily, just control everything. Not only that, I can set up lights. I can do things like I can take my iPad and run lyrics. Not lyrics because I don't sing, but sheet music off of here. If you want to, you can run lyrics, and you can change them all with your MIDI controller. Same MIDI controller that you're changing all the presets to. Matter of fact, you can have it built into the preset on the MIDI controller that when you press that button, it'll switch the pages. It'll go directly to a particular song. You can do a set list. You know, a set list where it'll change your presets, all your presets, and bring in effects pedals you need, and it'll change your sheet music, and it can trigger lights. If you get a MIDI to DMX, you know, converter, this same company, Do-Re MIDI, makes a MIDI to DMX, and that allows, DMX is like the signal that lights use, so to trigger lights, and you can do various things with just one or two presses of a few buttons with MIDI compared to trying to do everything with the analog. Like, these are passive. Like I said, you don't need power, meaning they don't need to be powered. You just can plug in your effects pedals and they'll work. But at the same time, I'm tired of that. I'm tired of that. Like, I want to be able to, in reality, I can bring any of these loops in and out, but I keep Ravish sitar. Now, it's not the most expensive effects looper, but I will say that you need to keep in mind it does have some restrictions in compared to things like the, I've seen the Morningstar, they have like a 10 effects loop thing going on with that. And that one is around like 400, but you can rearrange the effects without unplugging them or doing any of that. You can just rearrange them within the pedal. Well, within the box. It's just a box, just like this is a box, but you just can rearrange them. But luckily for me, I don't need that. Like, I don't need to be able to rearrange my effects loops because I already have them set up the way I need them, in the order I need them to be in. And that doesn't particularly change, you know what I'm saying, for me at the moment. But so this one that's $130 works out well. Now, for $130, you know, yes, it's got these little plastic joints, so, you know, I don't know how well these are going to hold up over time, but it is at least giving me a nice, decently clean. Let me bypass everything. It's giving me a decently clean. Like, if I decide to slap and pop, let's go to, let's go straight. So it does a decent job of, it's not really coloring my tone, and that's all I ask. It's supposed to be true bypass. That's all I need. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't ruin my tone of my bass. And, you know, because I pretty much, this is this. So all those pedals are pretty much getting bypassed when nothing is on, right? And then that runs straight to this passive looper, the one we've been talking about. The link is in the comment section there. And from here, this green loop, let me switch back to the pedalboard view. So if all that's bypassed in this effects looper, everything runs through another T-tone looper here. Passive looper, again, it only needs power if you want to use these, if you want the LED lights to come on. Otherwise, it's just an effects loop, right? Passive, they run about $40. Great, can't recommend them more. So green loop is just the burst, so which I have set to come through this source audio pedal here. And the burst is one of my favorite analog filters. Like I just can't even though it takes up a good amount of space compared to the MXR bass envelope filter and like the Spectrum and the bass balls, I have those down here on the floor. It just you gotta hear it. Let me let you hear it. You can take that, run the poly blue into that type of sound. Now you got a monstrous bass synth sound, just warm. just for comparison, I can easily just take that out. This next loop here has all the analog preamps on the floor in it, pretty much. Let's see, let's bypass this, bypass that. Take that out the mix. Take that out the mix as well. There we go. And we'll do a little tone shaping on the bass. Right? So now we got all the analog preamps on the floor in this red loop here, which, you know, also makes my life easier. I can take this entire pedal board out with just the press of a button, which is awesome. And not only that, I still have it, even when I'm running down to this pedal board, I still have it divided with another T-tone looper, which is right here, this gray one. This is my original one I bought. This is before I seen them with that was you know, nice and painted with the horse and, you know, nice color. There's just this gray box, which was fine for me, worse for me, you know. But and so each one of these loops is a different preamp, or might be multiple preamps. So the first loop, this, before you even get there, I'm running to the Spectrum comp down here. This TC Electronic Spectrum comp. Great sounding compressor. I don't have to have that on. Sorry, I keep squeaking my chair, but you know, kind of got us. It's just making the noise it makes. I'm sorry. I gotta do something about that. But then from there, running into the three-way effects looper. The green loop there is the Eden WT-DI. Sorry about it. So as you can hear, it's got that classic Eden sound to it. You can't, I don't even know if these are hard to find anymore, but they don't sell them brand new anymore. These Eden WT-DI pedals are amazing. You get that nice Eden sound in there. Then got the Aguilar AG preamp, which I recommend, especially if you're into like nice, you want like a super nice clean sound that's even close to the AG, and the color box are actually very close. Like they can sound very similar with the proper settings. So that's something you may want to look into, you know, if you into the Aguilar sound, but you don't. For me, I didn't like the tone hammer, or like I don't even really like that really expensive bass head they have. Like it colors your tone too much and it makes it too dark. It doesn't let it cut for me. Personally, I like the AG series from them. So, you know, I try to roll with that. But for me, it sounds, the AG AG is a dog. It can smack, or it can have a nice jazz tone for your stuff. Let me give you a little sample. So yeah, the AG definitely recommend that as an amazing, clean preamp as an alternative. You know, not even as an alternative if you like that sound. You know what I'm saying? So not particularly. You know, I'm very fond of different bass preamps. They definitely are a way to change your bass tone without changing your bass tone, like altering it the same way like a distortion or a chorus or something would. It just enhances the basically different types of EQ and different types of saturation, different types of just harmonic distortion, or you know, just a little bit like Ampeg as just a little touch of that grit, which you're going to next anyway. This Ampeg SGT DI. So one of the reasons I really love the there we go. There we go. One of the reasons I really love the SGT is because you definitely get that. It's like having 3 preamps in one. You really do get. You can have your slap and pop tone with just a regular preamp, like I did there. And then I can also have like a nice darker finger style tone. Getting some of that tubey fatness in there with some of the, just a little bit of grit for the B15 side. Just that little bit of, it just adds some nice warmness to it. And it also, like cuts those highs a little bit. So for finger style, that's perfectly fine, you know. But you still got the SVT side. When you want that just like that, not as dark tube sound, but just something that colors it and still adds some grit. All in one preamp, you know. With these analog preamps, I actually sometimes just roll up with just my analog preamps or my B6. You know, if I'm doing a smaller gig and I'm just like playing bass somewhere, or just playing bass on a gig. Not this bigger pedal board is for my solo stuff. I do, you know, solo 2-3 hour solo gigs sometimes, you know. So I gotta have the means to different sounds and different ways to loop and different things like that. So, but when I'm just playing a bass gig, something like this SGT works out amazing. You know, you can have different IRs loaded on there as well, run those through the DI, have this run into the return or the power amp in of the whatever amp they got at the gig, and voila, you got 3 different preamps. You got the new Ampeg sound, which is the regular just SGT preamp is close. Not, I mean, I wouldn't say it's close. Here's this is the ToneX version of that Ampeg BA 210s right there. You can't see because the chair's in the way, but so that's the ToneX version of my BA series head, and here's so that's nice, and it's not as big as the BA sound. Like the BA series head sound have a much bigger sound than the SGT or the Venture, you know, the Venture series preamp by itself. But when you take into the fact that you can add that B15 or that SG or the SVT, it's not going to be, you're not going to get the BA sound with the SGT. I'm going to tell you that now. But you can get that pack. You can get my pack of the BA series stuff for the ToneX on the Patreon. Don't forget the Patreon, guys. You want to support the channel more? You want to see more content like this? You want to even see more of your favorite pedals reviewed? Because I do, you know, I've reviewed all these pedals and different things. Hit the Patreon, hit the super chat, all that stuff. Appreciate y'all chiming in. But you just get such a nice, I love this this B15 sound. It's warm. And what I like to often do, in situations like this, like I like to mix the analog preamp with the digital IRs and everything else. It just makes it warmer. So I love that Ampeg put that all in one box for me. But let's move on. So that was the red loop, and the blue loop down here is the Jen's Magellan preamp, which has a nice big warm sound to it. Let me make sure I got everything off, but that, yep. Nice big sound to it. Another very versatile preamp, you know, but when we bypass all of that, you know, and that Gensler one sounds, that Magellan preamp sounds huge in bass amps and systems as well. Sounds amazingly massive. Like it's hard to describe, and it's hard to even, I say it's hard to perceive without being there in person. It's just something when you listen to it there in person and you feel it, and everything else is like, it doesn't feel like any of the other preamps. Like it doesn't sound, it has like its own very clean sound to it. Like it's a very, very clean preamp, but it sounds like massive, and it's just warm for it to just be like, it almost has like a tube warmth and weight to the sound at times. So can't recommend the Magellan enough, you know. And like I said, all these different packs and preamp sounds are available in the ToneX one, in my ToneX packs. You know, I got 11 different preamp packs, including some other heads like the Mark Bass, Lil Mark 3, the Jens Benz Shuttle 9, that TC Electronic BH 500 back there. Can you see it? The big red jank. That, yep. So, all right. But yeah, you can catch all this stuff on Patreon, as well as preset packs for the MS-60B Plus, Zoom B6, MS-70 CDR Plus, and C4 synth. I got a 47-piece synth bass pack for that on there. And all right, so we come out of there, we go into the bass balls filter. Classic bass filter. I'm gonna turn on the Empress compressor there. classic pedal. You can find those used for about $40, $50 actually. It does have built-in distortion as well, but I don't particularly care for it, so I just turned on the Poly Blues fuzz. Then we got the good old MXR bass filter. Good old classic MXR bass envelope filter. And I actually have the spectrum set to different distortions or overdrives that I like in there at the moment. Actually put that on. Matter of fact, I would actually just, let's take this off. Actually run that with, I like the color box on the Sims. We're just going to get to the color box anyway, so we might as well kick it on now. I like to use the color box as an alternative for using the bass preamps per se. Sometimes, like when I want just like when I don't want as weighty of a bass sound, like, or I don't need, say I'm using like a bass synth sound, that's why I primarily use it on bass synths. It adds a nice color, warmthness to it, and like punchiness to it without adding so much weight. Like, I'll show you what I'm talking about. So take something like by the way, I got this spectrum set to the bit crusher, as you heard there. It almost make me want to put it back on the regular pedal board. You see, I got a little bit of space here, but the power constraints is, the power restraints rather, and the things that. But that is nice. And I could combine that with the filters in there. I think on the, let me see. Yeah, so the other side is actual filters. So filters, presets. But I could run the Spectrum, and I could run the Spectrum on Midi, USB Midi as well. I just know I'm not going to be taking it with the my typical setup. So but the color box like adds a nice warmth without adding that too much weight versus you already got enough. That's got plenty of weight as it is by itself. That's plenty of weight, but if you add something like the SGT, you hear how much more how much more weight that adds. And stuff like the Aguilar don't add as much weight, but it's a little bit too firm and not spongy enough of a sound for me for that. And the Magellan also can be considered a nice texture for it, but it doesn't really add too much at that point. So, but I would rather have that color box. It just feels like it's going to translate better when you go to mix or record. And Eden definitely Eden's definitely gonna add too much weight, so I definitely like to. It just feels like you're running into an expensive console when you're running it into the color box versus running it into the other preamps, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? And I love these analog preamps going into the Empress compressor, but I like the Empress compressor going into the digital preamps of the ToneX one, if that makes sense to you guys. So basically, when I'm running straight analog, like when I'm running these analog preamps, I'm running them into the Empress compressor. Versus when I'm running just this board by itself, I'm running the Empress compressor into the same, it might be the same exact sound as the down here, but on the ToneX, I find it sounds better running through there. So make sure y'all hit that like button while y'all hanging out with me too. I definitely appreciate y'all for sure hanging with me today. You got any questions, leave, don't forget to leave any questions, or, you want to hit that super chat, super thanks. I definitely appreciate that too. But let's do a quick comparison. And I promise we're going to get back to the actual MIDI side of the board in a minute. We still just going through kind of exploring how everything's set up, because it is a very extensive setup. It takes me hours to when I tear this down and put it back together. It takes me about 3 hours to put it back together. 3 to 4 hours actually, if we're talking about making sure everything's working. Might have to, just is what it is. But yeah, so here's the color box on just my bass. Get a nice finger style tone. Ooh, that color box. So yeah, there you kind of see me kind of flipping back and forth between the two. So you kind of get a. I like how full how it adds to. I guess running the compressor, the Empress into the digital preamp, like the analog compressor into the digital preamp, it kind of warms it up for me and like really gives it that, helps give it that a little bit more to that analog soul, that just that little smidge that IK Multimedia couldn't get. It's like the Empress adds it back in there with a little bit of saturation in there. So that's mostly why I run it like that. So I'm doing analog into the analog preamp into the analog compressor, but analog compressor into the digital preamp. So hope that helps somebody. All right. So let's keep rolling here. Then we roam from B. A is the Zoom B6. Again, is in this particular setup, I don't use the Zoom B6 too much, but I use it as a standalone for, say, stuff like church or smaller gigs, bass gigs where I need to have, like theater gigs, something where I'll have to leave a setup overnight, or I might be doing a show or two every day. I just leave the Zoom B6 there set up. And not only that, I have different amps and things set up within the Zoom B6 to, simplify things. So say I'm doing a show, I can have three different, cabinet setups, which I have here. Like I have, this is a SVT running into an Aguilar 410. Nice full bass, full bass preamp sound, bass and cabinet. And that becomes super important when you're running in ears, like in church. A lot of these churches are running in ears now. The Zoom B6 is the perfect companion for something like that. You're going to be able to have a DI box, a quality DI box. Not only that, but it even gives you 4 different types of preamps that you can, DI types that you can select from, which emulate things like, and they didn't say this in the manual, but in my opinion, it's the tube 1 is the Noble DI. Tube 2 is actually the red DI, or Ready, whatever, the red box DI. Solid State 2 is like a console, and Solid State 1 is like a console. Solid State 2 is like the Neve DI box. So, you got those, or you can have it off and just running it straight. But definitely useful too to have. Like I said, that's the Aguilar. This is one of my custom IRs here. That's actually, I have this Jens Benz 212 over here. And that's the IR I made of that. Here's with that inverted. So I got one with the mic regular standard, and then another one with the phase inverted. So then here's the SVT, and all these are same SVT preamp settings, just different cabinets. This is with an actual SVT 410s with a tweeter. So a full Ampeg rig there. So all that's within just the B6 by itself. And like I said, that's normally my standalone unit, but when I'm at home, I need a way to work that into my signal when I need to, create patches for different songs that I may be using for it. And I do that with these loopers. So I can easily just take these 2 cables out here, and the Zoom B6 is out of the picture. Or I can patch in new effects here into these different things. So it just makes my life so much easier having all this versatility. But bam. So now the B6 is out the loop. So now, right now, everything is bypassed. This is just my bass. And like I said, this thing has input and output buffers as well. This Do Re Midi MES-8. I don't know why I have so many pedals here with numbers in the names, like OC5 or Hog2, the HX1, the Key 9, Mel 9, C4 synth, the MS-60B plus, all these like serial number type names are crazy to try to say, especially when I was naming the MIDI channels. And, to be honest, I didn't realize it until I started saying the MIDI channels one time. I was like, oh, the Hog2 is on channel 1. And I started thinking, it's like, dang, I wish I would have paid a little bit more attention. I'd have put the Hog2 on channel 2. Made more sense, and put the HX1 on channel 1, the C4 on channel 4, but being a genius, huh? It works out sometimes. But this time, didn't work for me. So, either way, out of this looper here, going to the Empress ToneX MXR layers, which I have set up for that type of stuff. It's in auto mode right now. But if I I just turn that trigger down. I have the sustain pedal down here. This is just a regular keyboard sustain pedal, and it'll just hold it like that, the same way the freeze will, but it's a slightly different sound. With the MXR layers, you also the output is a TRS output, so eventually, oh man, I'm about to knock everything down, but whatever. So eventually I'm gonna take, let me see, eventually out of the, I'm gonna switch it to this type of setup where it's a TRS cable running into two mono cables to that are run stereo into the MS-70 CDR Plus, because the layers has chorus and tremolo that are in stereo, and you know also has delay in there that's in stereo as well. So it'd be nice to have that stuff and have the complete, you know, capacity of the unit sound, you know, sound wise. But I love the layers. Let me see. Let me add something to that. So yeah, definitely a great pedal. I really love the MXR layers and the deep freeze. Like Now, you know, of course they're along the same lines, but they're gonna get you completely different sounds. And just so you can have a quick comparison between the two. Stretch that glissando out. Run that into the male 9. Sorry about that, guys. I think I might have just found a little flaw in the little effects loop. See, like I just turned it off. And it's showing that it's going on and off. See, it went off there. So what I might do is, it was more stable when I was, instead of using the MIDI out, I was using the USB. I'm actually powering this MIDI Captain through the H2 MIDI Pro, which I have a USB hub underneath the board. So I might just run this. Come on. That's not it. 1 second. So now I'm gonna run the MIDI Captain off of the Do Re Mi, and then I'm gonna also simultaneously send. So now the Do Re Mi is only connected to the H2 MIDI Pro through the. You know what? I could just run the. But it's not sending MIDI two-way, so yeah, it's fine. I can even do it this way, or I can run a USB cable from the H2 MIDI Pro to the MES8 looper. But I like having a direct connection to the effects looper more than anything. And that's the only thing I needed to connect to. You know, I don't need anything else to be controlling the effects looper. So, but if I did, then instead of using like powering the MIDI captain off of it, I would just run a USB-C to the USB-A on here. Because it was losing that MIDI connection for some reason. Like, I triggered this and it wasn't triggering like it's supposed to. It's doing it now. So, like, if I just trigger these on, yeah, let's move on. So then we got the MS-70CDR Plus, which is that one, which is this blue one here. Amazing pedal. Definitely recommend you check it out. Let me scoot this up like this. I don't keep getting that little noise. But I definitely recommend the Zoom MS-70CDR Plus. It's definitely something worth adding to your repertoire. It's like a little multi, you know, it's got great great modulations, great delays and reverbs in there. Just a little tip, you know, the reverbs, if you want them to sound bigger, like for instance, the ones on the HX1 sound a little bigger than the ones by themselves in the MS-70CDR Plus. But if you add the ambience effect after the reverb, so reverb, whatever reverb into the ambience effect and adjust accordingly, it'll definitely open up the sound. Or air. No, just use air. Use the air drink. So reverb and air. Just a crazy combination. Let me see. That's all MS. Believe it or not, that's all the MS-70CDR Plus right there. Tone, you know, all these are available in the pack that's on the Patreon. How warm and big that patch is there. So I did some bass patches for you, synth stuff. Solo stuff. Then so you got all those different types of sounds in the MS-70CDR Plus pack, which is also available on the Patreon. You can check all that out. Download it, throw it on there. MS-60B Plus, the bass version, also have a pack for that on there, and the Zoom B6. So if you want any of these presets that you're listening to on these pedals, or the ToneX one presets, or the C4 synth, check out the Patreon. Funky satin for you. Great to organ. So, as you can hear, you can do a lot with just the MS-70 CDR Plus. It's an amazing pedal, but I have a whole different that pack is available. Like I said, all those different sounds and pads, and even the bass sounds, the synth sounds, all that stuff is in the pack. So, check it out. All right, moving on. Let's go to Mink. We got the HX1. HX1 is not the cheapest pedal, you know, but it does sound good. And if you, I do like the delays and the reverbs on there a lot. Like, I like the delays. That's primarily what I use it for. But I do like the analog flanger as well. And the pitch shifting's okay too. I like the the poly joint, but I gotta. Let me see. The other great thing is, with each device, I have a different page set up on this Midi captain. So it's like they correspond with the Midi channel. So pretty much, what is this? The HX1 is channel 2, I want to say. Yeah. And I got things like, that's the this is their Noble preamp, the Regal Bass DI. And I have each switch to not only set up so it switches to the preset, but it can turn it on, toggle the pedal on and off and bypass. So if I press it, this is with it bypass. If I press it now, it's activated. And this is the HX1 if you're not familiar, that one right there. Analog flanger. Let me turn on this Empress. much bigger the sound gets. The analog flanger sounds really good. A little delay. Adriatic delay. Dynamic Hall. Other cool thing about Midi is I can also have the same Midi captain set up to hit that flux button if I do certain things as well. So that makes it really nice, you know. That sweet. Sounds good. Dynamic balloon. Reverb. Got a shimmer. Particle delay. Particle reverb. Poly pitch. So I have all that set up in the presets, and all these are presets. So pedal, I'm just doing PC messages to change the presets, but if I want to control the different parameters, say like the mix, the speed of something, or anything like that, all those are control change messages, so CC messages. You know, patches, so presets, PC. Parameters or controls, C, you know, CC. That's the type of MIDI messages you have to send to it to get it to correspond to that. So, and depending on, you got to look at the manual for each individual pedal, but like the Zoom MS-60B Plus and the multi-stomp pedals only respond to PC messages, so only respond to preset changes. Don't respond to control changes. So you can't change parameters. You can't scroll like down the effects line and turn things on and off. Like, it doesn't work like that. It only allows you to change the presets, but gives you plenty of presets to where you can have everything set up to where you can just switch the preset, and it's not that big of a deal. So that's something else to look out for. Certain pedals like the Walk-Thru and the V256 allow you to control tons of things, some things that you can't even get to on the pedal. So, you know, it's like you unlock some hidden features when you are actually doing the MIDI with certain pedals. So, you know, on the surface, it may seem like they're just this or that. And look, the Walk-Thru has plenty of controls on it. But you can get even deeper and more detail with MIDI involved with it. So definitely check that out. Keep that in mind when you know, mess around with stuff. All right, and then we got the Plethora X1. So, you know, I love the tri-chorus. Look how wide that sound is. So yeah, that's primarily the chorus, and I primarily use it for chorus and reverb. So and that's actually a tone print I created myself. That is the what I like to call the Negus verb. So also I'll be coming out with packs for the HX1 and the Plethora X1 also. Of course, you know, all my sounds for those will be available soon also. So make sure I hit that like button wherever y'all are. I definitely appreciate all y'all hanging out with me on the different platforms. So those are pretty much the sounds I use for the... I mean, I have more sounds I use, but those are the two primary sounds. And like I said, it's pretty much chorus. I love this vibrato too. I've always loved the Shaker by TC Electronic. Put that on a nice bass synth. Without it, with it. Another one of my favorite effects on there is the vibrato. So my favorites are the vibrato, the reverb, and the chorus. The Corona chorus, tri-chorus, all that's in the same pedal. So those are my favorites. The other tone prints I like. I can use the phaser. The phaser isn't my favorite phaser ever, but I can use it for something. The tremolo definitely will get used for something. I'm not a huge fan of doublers. I'm not really I'm not a huge fan of that sound, so I don't use that. But yeah, it has tons of flexibility. They fixed the app so you can connect through Bluetooth and through USB now. So that's awesome. You can control everything through the Tone Print app. So that is a super nice upgrade they did there. Well, it wasn't even an upgrade. They had to do it to make it functional in the first place. But past that, then we drop down. Like I said, we drop down to the Jamman XT Solo Express Solo. Let's see, move this way. Jump down to the Jamman Express XT, to the Jamman Solo XT, which is this one, and the Jamman HD, which is the new one. And the new one's converters are running at 32-bit 216 kilohertz, which is a ridiculous conversion rate, but they sound amazing. Let me just do a quick comparison in sound for you, I guess. Let's do. So this is the old one. So now I know it might be a little bit difficult to hear the difference all the time, but it definitely sounds way better. And when you go to export that file and put it into your DAW, say you record, I use a looper like a um almost like a notepad, an audio notepad for me. So when I go back and I want to use that same sound, like some sounds are hard to get back to. So, I'll loop it. I want the problem I was having with the original XT was the sound wouldn't be it would be a lower quality when I went to go run it into the system. You know what I'm saying? But now with that, that upgrade definitely in clarity and, just um the quality of the sound, the quality of it is better. That's gonna make my life a lot easier when I go back to then bring those into software and reuse them. And finally, we have the Atlas compressor. So it's always just it's like my end of the chain. It's like my mastering effect there for my chain, even with after the looper. So I might have whatever I got going on with the looper and soloing and all that stuff, but I still want something to glue all that stuff together. And this Atlas compressor is perfect for that. In terms of it has EQ and compression, and like it gives you the compressors are very impressive on there. I love to I'm gonna come out with a pack for that as well, so that you guys will have all my compressors as well. But I'm running two compressors into each other. One of them's doing all the compression, and the other one's just coloring it. And then I have that same version with a nice EQ curve on it. Well, here's without it. So that one, that second compressor setting has EQ on it as well. So all that, you know, it has the saturation and the compression of the first one, and which is, you know, just the regular compression. The first setting is it gives a nice warmth. So here's my bass without it. Let's bring these mids out some. With it, evens out things, but adds a little saturation in there too. So just a little bit of saturation, doesn't color it too much, but gives it a nice compressed, just perfect compression there. I'm just going, Source Audio killed the Atlas compressor. Next to the Empress is my favorite compressor, but next to that, I definitely would take the Atlas into battle. Trust me, it can do keyboard, it can do everything. It can run multiple instruments at once. It can be its own effects loop and everything else. It can sidechain stuff. It's just an incredible pedal. So many options within it. So many different types of compressors. So, you know, you really can't go wrong with the Atlas compressor. The Empress bass compressor is just great at being a bass compressor. It's as good as you're going to get, in my opinion, of a bass compressor. So, but the Atlas, for a digital compressor, that warm, when you switch on that EQ, that's comparable, in my opinion, to the Empress. And that's with the tone plus color on the cutting around 500. So to the left, you know. And this is running parallel compression at 10-1. That's warm, boy. That thing hard to beat. That's nasty. But the Atlas, and that's where you really hear it when you dig in. It has a nice warmth I like to hear from analog stuff. Here's my bass without it. With the Empress. Atlas. Whew. So, you know, that's all. So, you made it to the end of my pedal board. Yay. So, you know, it's just, you know, over time you build all these different, you know, you get all these different things. You know, I wouldn't recommend just going out in the next couple days and buying all this stuff. One, because each individual pedal you add has something to really, you know, you should try to explore it. You know, you instead of always looking for the next new pedal, make sure you completely have explored the pedals you have, and make sure you always keep an open mind to the pedals that you have already, in terms of things like the C4 synth and the Atlas compressor. They always can show you something new because they have so many possibilities. Even things like these three, the MS-70 CDR Plus, the HX1, and the Plethora X1, they all have extensive amounts of parameters that you can control, and the control of them is amazing. So, you know, it just makes you want to. If you get them all at once, you won't have a chance to really appreciate them, in my opinion. You know, let me see what we got going on here. Yeah, man, and you know, the compressors are super important for bass players. Like Emmanuel, I appreciate you chiming in. You know, but compressors, you can run a gig with just a compressor for real, straight into the system with a nice like Empress or that Atlas. You could just run that because they got a certain amount of EQ and tone to them already. The Empress even has that plus color on there, which adds a little bit of harmonic distortion into your sound. So it almost gives you like that Ampeg feel to it, you know, without sounding like an Ampeg. But yeah, so yeah, just but you know, back to what I was saying, I wouldn't just recommend just buying a whole bunch of pedals. Take time to really explore them. The digital pedals definitely have a lot to offer these days versus always trying to get the next analog pedal. You know, as you can see, I'm using pretty much all digital stuff at this point just to make sure I can be able to have presets for things. You know, the analog stuff like the blurs, I can't live without it. You can't fake that blur sound like that. It's now the MS-70 CDR Plus does have a great filter on there. The low pass filter sounds amazing, nice warm filter, but it ain't the blurs. Um, but the you know, most things like the ToneX one, they save a lot of space as well. You know, instead of having all these pedals down here on the floor, you know, all these preamps to get those sounds, I have them all stored on the ToneX one, which, by the way, my personal preset list is available on the Patreon as well for the ToneX one, as well as 11 different preamp packs for that particular pedal. So, you know, and presets for all these different pedals. So, all the digital ones like the C4 Synth, MS-60B Plus, Zoom B6, MS-70 CDR Plus. Packs are all on Patreon. You want to support the channel more, you can do it through the Patreon, you know. But hit that like button for me if you haven't already, wherever you are. I definitely would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, so having things, digital things definitely allow you to have different presets. It allows you to have people like myself create preset packs. And if you like, you know, it's not even just whatever sounds you can create personally. It's like now you have a whole community of people that's creating sounds with it. Like things with the C4 synth, they actually have an actual community. Or you can go to your favorite player and website, and they might have a preset pack for your digital stuff that you may like. You know, sounds you might have heard directly on the record that they did, you can now purchase. Like I know the packs that I use, you'll be hearing those sounds on record soon, real soon. You know, so that's, you know, I mean, of course I have stuff already, but you know, you'll be able to get the exact sounds compared to before. You know, remember back in the day you had to spend all this time trying to figure out different people's sounds, or you was trying to get close to such and such sound, but you couldn't quite get there. These days, now you can literally just download it. Like, you know, especially for stuff like the Helix, um, or, you know, the Quad Cortex and the ToneX has a great community behind it. I wish more people would get on the Zoom train. You know, we could really get a bigger community of presets going, but you know, that's another conversation. But yeah, you running all that stuff, and then to incorporate Midi with the digital stuff, you get all these presets, all this versatility, and you can control it all from one place. And one, you know, with one foot switch, you can switch everything like one big digital pedal board. Essentially, what I did with this MIDI controller here is I made this like a really big multi-effects unit that I now could control the same way I would a Zoom B6 and have everything work together, including if I added a MIDI time clock in there. I can now have everything set to the same BPMs and have everything synced up like reverbs, delays, you know, and everything else. Modulations, chords, tremolos, all that stuff can be enhanced with MIDI. So I recommend you definitely try out definitely try out some different pedals, and try out some different brands and stuff. Like I've never heard of Do Re Midi. Like it's a smaller brand. From what I could gather, they only been around for about 3-4 years. So it's not like it's a super huge brand, but sometimes you got to take a chance and try something new. I might even check out a looper pedal one somebody was suggesting. I really don't have any interest in the particular brand they suggested, but I'm gonna look into it at the very least. And feel free for you if any of you guys have suggestions for pedals you would like to see me review, or you know definitely leave those down there. But everything I try to do under 500 and below. I don't, what I'm saying, I ain't there yet where, what I'm saying, I could just go out and buy all $1 million of pedals, but I do keep it to about 500 and below. Even looking at my pedal board here, this is my main pedal setup. Every pedal here is pretty much 500 or below. Just look around, and you can get amazing sounds. Like I don't think you necessarily need the most expensive pedals to sound good. And most of the people that watch my stuff, they not trying to spend $1 million on pedals. So they want something reasonable like MS-70 CDR Plus, which gets the job done. Sounds great. Sounds amazing. So don't worry about the price of the pedal. Worry about the sound of it. Don't worry about how many pedals. Worry about are you using the ones you got efficiently. Don't worry about always having a digital versus analog. Just think about how you want to incorporate that particular effect or whatever into your setup. If I was being super pressed about having every little detail on MIDI, I would have to swap out this Empress compressor for the Atlas compressor, because the Atlas could be controlled through USB MIDI. Same way I'm controlling the C4 synth. And the same thing would be like the Ravis Sitar, Mel 9, Key 9, all that would have to go. But, it's a mixture of things. So, you got to decide how much of your setup you have to have digital and you have to have on MIDI, and how much you can live with having to do little tweaks, bend down, and or like I do, and what I'll be doing now, where I'm gonna keep my pedal board on a keyboard stand and keep my MIDI controller either on the floor or somewhere by me when I'm programming in the studio. Like now, I can just sit here and program things and press things and not have to fiddle with this whole board for the most part. So yeah, MIDI is definitely something worth incorporating into your board. Oh, one little final detail I forgot to mention. When I get to the MS-70 CDR, from there I go to all this is stereo. I go to stereo. So all this is hold on, let me see it. So all this is mono. All this is mono. Even this entire loop here is mono, going through to the ToneX and MXL layers. Only pedals I'm going stereo on is when I get to the MS-70 CDR Plus, the HX1, Plethora X1, and then all the loopers and the Atlas compressor, all that's running stereo into the mixer. I'm actually using a Zoom L12 mixer as well. So, and no, I'm not sponsored by Zoom. I've never even talked to anybody at Zoom. I just really like Zoom's products and the quality for the price. So, but yeah, all that's running stereo. And that is another thing that I've just recently got into. I probably end up getting like a Canvas stereo DI line isolator. That way when I'm running in doing gigs, if the sound engineer wants to run XLRs, he can just run 2 XLRs out the Canvas. So, but I don't have one of those at the moment. But I'm definitely I definitely like the way they sound and what they do for your sound in terms of just, it's something about getting all the quality out of your pedals. It feels like sometimes if you don't have good cables, you wasting your money on great pedals. If you don't have good power supply, you wasting your money on great pedals, because it's going to be noisy. You're not going to be usable, or there's going to be so much extra noise when you go to try to record or do something else. It's not going to be a usable track. It's just going to go and end up using your bass direct. You know, if you don't have, if you don't understand how pedals work, so like good effect order, you're wasting money as well, because you're not getting the optimal sounds. You know what I'm saying? So it just knowing a little bit before you buy a million pedals, or like learning, not buying a million pedals, buying a few at a time, working them in, learning them, figure out what's the best configurations for them in every single way. And that is going to ultimately allow you to use them on stage, allow you to use them efficiently, and not have everybody in the band be mad at you because you using all these weird sounds that don't really fit and don't really sound good. So it's super important that you learn all these little things. Like this big board is powered by 2 CS12s. That's about $500 just to power the board. But when I say it would be so noisy right now without it. It would be crazy. And trying to incorporate MIDI too, because the MIDI cables would just be adding extra noise, you know, different loops and stuff like that, and just make all this noise and stuff. But when you got, and I got a ISO brick down bottom by MXR, the ISO brick that's powering this board on the floor, and separate power supply. I got to get another power brick to power my mini looper board here as well. But power supply is super important. Solid cables. All these cables are custom built, custom soldered, not solderless. Soldered. You need to learn how to solder if you're gonna run the pedal board, because the solderless ones do tend to have noise. Like any good pedal board builder is gonna solder their cables. So it's not a difficult thing to learn, but you know, once you learn it and burn yourself a few times, you'll figure it out. Other than that, you know, just from there, once you know those few rules, setting it up is easy. You know, I haven't changed my pedal board order, and like I don't really change the order, but I have, like I said, incorporated this looper switch there. So I got everything separated now. Things that would have been together. So I used that prior to this looper. I had the Poly Blue, the OC5, C4 synth, MS-60B Plus, and the Hog-2 all on one loop. Excuse me. Had all that on one loop. You know, now Poly Blue's by itself, OC5's by itself, and I don't have any more than 3 pedals in any of the MIDI loops. You know, most of the loops, most of these are one pedal. But get over here to the analog, you know, the passive looper here, I do have a whole entire pedal board there, and then the, you know, one pedal here. So just takes time, guys. Don't let it overwhelm you. You know what I'm saying? Don't feel like you need this stuff to be good. But use them as tools. Use them as tools. Like the same way, just because you got a hammer doesn't mean you know how to build a house. You know what I'm saying? But you need a hammer to build a house. You feel me? It's like that. You need the knowledge more than anything, because you can make a hammer out of something that's not even really out of a stick and a stone. You know, you can make a hammer and build a house if you really need to. But if you don't know how to build a house, you can make a hammer all day, but you ain't gonna be able to do nothing with it. So it's important that you know, be musical as well with your effects choices, when to use them. Like when you're playing like in environments like this by yourself, practicing, do whatever you want. On stage, you know, just being honest, simple is gonna be better most of the time. You know, I do incorporate my bass synths. I do incorporate like when I'm doing solo, I'm using this entire board. That's what this whole board is for. So, but when I'm playing with a group, I'm I really, like I said, can just take compressor and preamp and be fine. So, don't let that, don't, like I said, don't feel pressured or feel like you have to buy every new thing out. You don't need all that. You don't need 50 basses. You don't need all these pedals. For real, this is just stuff that enhances what you are and what you do. And it really is more important that you as a player are shining and your skills are impeccable. That's what you want to aim for. The effects is just a seasoner. It's like you could season up if you took a rock and you put some seasoning on it. It just don't taste like a rock with some seasoning on it, okay? But you take a prime piece of steak and you put some seasoning on it and cook it properly and everything else. Now you got something cooking, something that's delicious, something that's like, wow, I didn't even realize you can do that. And don't be afraid when you by yourself, experiment. Like, that's the best time to experiment with your effects order if that's what you want to do. But, eventually settle down, realize what works for you, what doesn't work for you in particular, and then go from there. But I definitely appreciate y'all hanging with me. It's been a pleasure hanging out with you guys, showing me love today on the different platforms, Instagram, Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube. If you want to find me on any social media platform at the Bass Negus, Negus, the Bass Bass Negus, Negus. And if you want to find any of my music at you can find it at allbasscreations.bandcamp.com. That's allbasscreations.bandcamp.com. And if you want to leave some super chat, super thanks, Cash App, all that's on screen. If you want to support the channel long term or get any of my presets for any of these various pedals, you can find all of that on the Patreon. Just go to the Patreon and then go to the shop tab, and you'll see all of my different preamp packs available, as well as effects packs. So other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for chilling and hanging out with me, supporting me, and I will